The unlikely encounter. Ethan Rees never felt quite at home on Celestial Nexus, the sprawling space station he called home for all of his 14 years. As the only human child among thousands of alien species, he often found himself the object of curiosity, pity, or worst of all, indifference. But Ethan had inherited his parents' adventurous spirit and boundless optimism, traits that had brought them to this distant corner of the galaxy to fall their untimely deaths in a shuttle accident when he was just a toddler. The station itself was a marvel of engineering, a massive structure shaped like a glittering snowflake, each of its 6 arms housing different alien communities, markets, and docking bays. At the center lay the hub, where the station's operations were managed and where species from across the galaxy came to trade, negotiate, and sometimes scheme. On this particular day, Ethan found himself wandering the less-traveled corridors of the station's lower levels. He'd just finished his daily lessons with the station's AI tutor and was in no hurry to return to his small quarters in the human sector. As he walked, his hand brushed against the smooth, cool metal of the station's walls, feeling the almost imperceptible vibration of countless systems working in harmony to keep them all alive in the vacuum of space. The deeper he ventured into the bowels of the station, the fewer beings he encountered. Those he did pass barely spared him a glance, each caught up in their own concerns. It was in one of these dimly lit corridors that Ethan first saw her. Huddled in a shadowy alcove was a figure that made Ethan pause. At first glance, she appeared to be little more than a pile of tattered robes. But as Ethan drew closer, he could make out the delicate, almost translucent skin of an Etherian, a race known for their ethereal beauty and advanced technology. This Etherian, however, looked far from the regal beings Ethan had seen gliding through the upper levels of the station. Her silvery hair was matted and dull, her lilac skin smudged with grime. Yet there was something in her bearing, a hint of dignity that centuries of hardship couldn't quite erase, that caught Ethan's attention. Without hesitation, Ethan approached the hunched figure. "Excuse me," he said softly, crouching down to her level. "Are you all right? Do you need any help?" The Etherian's head snapped up, revealing eyes that shimmered like pools of liquid starlight. For a moment, surprise and something akin to fear flashed across her features before being quickly masked by a look of weary resignation. "I am beyond help, young one," she replied, her voice a rasping whisper. "But I thank you for your concern. It is unexpected." Ethan frowned, reaching into his pocket and pulling out the nutrient bar he'd been saving for later. "Here," he said, breaking it in half and offering a portion to the Etherian. "It's not much, but it should help with hunger." The woman hesitated, her gaze flickering between Ethan's face and the offered food. After a long moment, she reached out with a trembling hand to accept it. "Your kindness is appreciated," she murmured. As the Etherian ate, Ethan settled himself more comfortably on the floor beside her. "I'm Ethan," he said. "What's your name?" Again, that flash of fear crossed her face before she answered, "You may call me Zara." "Nice to meet you, Zara," Ethan smiled. "How did you end up down here? I didn't think Etherians ever left the upper levels." Zara's lips twitched in what might have been a bitter smile. "Circumstances change, young Ethan. The universe is not always kind, even to those born into privilege." Before Ethan could respond, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the corridor. A group of Vexari, insectoid aliens known for their strict adherence to social hierarchies, rounded the corner. Their compound eyes fixed on the unlikely pair, the human boy and the bedraggled Etherian. Well, well," chittered the lead Vexari, mandibles clicking in amusement. "What have we here?" A human whelp consorting with garbage. Ethan felt his face flushed with anger, but before he could retort, another of the Vexari spoke up. "Careful, young one. Associating with such, refuse, could taint your already questionable standing." "She's not garbage," Ethan shot back, rising to his feet. "She's a person who needs help. Something you'd understand if you weren't so busy looking down on everyone else." The Vexari recoiled, more from surprise at Ethan's outburst than any sense of shame. Their laughter, a harsh, grating sound, filled the corridor. "Oh, the human thinks it can lecture us on morality," the leader mocked. "Run along, little one. Leave the dregs where they belong." With that, the group moved on, their laughter echoing behind them. Ethan stood there, fists clenched, fighting back tears of frustration. He'd encountered prejudice before, but rarely so blatant, so cruel. A gentle touch on his arm drew his attention back to Zara. The Etherian woman was looking at him with an expression he couldn't quite decipher. Surprise, certainly, but also something that might have been respect. "You should not have done that," Zara said softly. "But thank you. It has been a long time since anyone has spoken in my defense." Ethan shrugged, trying to shake off his anger. "It's not right how they treated you. No one deserves that." Zara studied him for a long moment, her starlight eyes seeming to peer into his very soul. Then, with a grace that belied her ragged appearance, she rose to her feet. "Perhaps," she said, "you would indulge an old woman in conversation. It seems I have misjudged humans, and I find myself curious." Ethan's face broke into a genuine smile. "I'd like that," he said. "I don't know much about Etherians either. Maybe we could learn from each other." As they began to talk, neither Ethan nor Zara could have guessed how this chance encounter would set in motion events that would shake the very foundations of the celestial nexus and beyond. For in helping a seeming beggar, Ethan had unwittingly allied himself with the most wanted fugitive in the galaxy and taken the first step towards unraveling a conspiracy that threatened everything he held dear. In the shadows of the station's underbelly, a spark of hope had been kindled, and though neither of them knew it yet, that spark would soon ignite into a flame bright enough to illuminate the darkest corners of the cosmos. Hidden truths revealed. Over the next few weeks, Ethan found himself drawn back to the lower levels of Celestial Nexus, seeking out Zara's company. The conversations ranged from the mundane to the profound, with Ethan sharing stories of his daily life on the station and Zara offering glimpses into Etherian culture and history. Despite her bedraggled appearance, Zara's knowledge seemed vast and her insights keen. One day, as Ethan recounted his latest misadventure in the hydroponics bay, he noticed Zara's gaze sharpening, her posture straightening almost imperceptibly. "Ethan," she interrupted gently, "why do you continue to seek me out? Surely a young human has better ways to spend his time than conversing with a beggar." Ethan shrugged, a bit taken aback by the question. "I like talking to you. You're interesting, and you actually listen. Most aliens here either ignore me or treat me like some kind of oddity." Zara's eyes seemed to shimmer with an inner light. "And if I were to tell you that I am not who I appear to be, that associating with me could put you in grave danger." Ethan felt a thrill of excitement mixed with apprehension. "Are you in some kind of trouble? Is someone after you?" A sad smile played across Zara's lips. "In a manner of speaking, yes. Ethan, what I am about to tell you must remain secret. Your life may depend on it. Are you prepared for that responsibility?" Without hesitation, Ethan nodded. "I can keep a secret. I want to help if I can." Zara took a deep breath, her form seeming to shift before Ethan's eyes. The grime and wear that had marked her features began to fade, revealing skin that glowed with an inner radiance. Her matted hair smoothed and shimmered like liquid silver. Even her tattered robes seemed to transform, taking on the appearance of finely woven starlight. Ethan gasped, his eyes widening in awe. You're not just any Etherian, are you?" "No, my young friend," Zara replied, her voice now clear and resonant. "I am Zara Luxaturna, rightful queen of the Etherian Empire, and I am in exile, hunted by those who would see my people enslaved to darkness." For a moment, Ethan sat in stunned silence, trying to process this revelation. Then his natural curiosity took over. But how? Why? What happened? Zara's expression darkened. "It is a long and painful tale, but you deserve to know the truth. 5 years ago, my brother, Nyx, staged a coup. He had allied himself with a shadowy group known as the Void Collective, beings who seek to harness the power of dark energy for their own nefarious purposes. As Zara spoke, she wove a tale of betrayal and cosmic intrigue. The Aetherian Empire, she explained, had long been guardians of ancient technology that could manipulate the very fabric of space-time. The Void Collective coveted this power, seeing it as a means to reshape the galaxy in their image. Nyx promised them access to our sacred sites in exchange for their support, Zara continued, her voice heavy with regret. I tried to stop him, to reason with him, but I underestimated the depth of his ambition. In the end, I was forced to flee, to survive so that I might one day reclaim the throne and protect our people's legacy. Ethan listened, enraptured by the story. It was like something out of the adventure holovids he occasionally watched, except this was real, and he was somehow part of it. But why hide here, he asked. Why disguise yourself as a beggar? Zara's lips quirked in a wry smile. We're better to hide than in plain sight. The celestial nexus is a crossroads of the galaxy. Here, I can gather information, make connections, and plan my next move. And who would suspect a queen to be lurking in the station's underbelly? Ethan nodded, beginning to understand the brilliance of her strategy. Then a thought struck him. Wait, if you're in hiding, why tell me? I'm just a kid. How can I help? Zara reached out, placing a hand on Ethan's shoulder. The touch sent a tingle of energy through him, like static electricity but warmer, more alive. You, Ethan, have shown me something I have begun to lose faith in, the innate goodness and courage of sentient beings. Your kindness, offered freely to one you thought a mere beggar, has rekindled my hope. And make no mistake, your unique position on this station could prove invaluable. Ethan's brow furrowed. My position, but I'm nobody important. Ah, but that is precisely what makes you important, Zara countered. You move through this station largely unnoticed. You have access to areas and information that others might overlook. And most crucially, you are human, a species still viewed as something of an oddity in this part of the galaxy. She leaned in, her voice dropping to a whisper. The Void Collective has agents everywhere, Ethan. I believe they are planning something here on Celestial Nexus, something that could threaten not just my people, but all life in the galaxy. I need allies I can trust, eyes and ears in places I cannot go. Will you help me? Ethan felt a mix of emotions surge through him, fear, excitement, and a deep sense of purpose he'd never experienced before. This was his chance to be part of something greater than himself, to make a real difference in the universe. I'll help, he said, his voice firm with resolve. What do you need me to do? Zara's face broke into a radiant smile. For now, observe and listen. Pay attention to the comings and goings of ships, any unusual activity or new faces on the station, and continue to visit me, but be cautious. We cannot risk arousing suspicion. As Ethan nodded his agreement, a distant alarm began to sound. Zara's form shimmered, once again taking on the appearance of a bedraggled beggar. Go, she urged. We've lingered too long. Remember, Ethan, trust no one. The fate of worlds may rest on our actions. As Ethan hurried away, his mind reeling from all he had learned, he couldn't help but feel a thrill of excitement. He, Ethan Rees, the orphaned human boy of Celestial Nexus, was now part of a cosmic conspiracy. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he was determined to face them head-on for Zara, for the galaxy, and for the chance to prove that humanity's place among the stars was well earned. Little did Ethan know that his commitment would soon be tested in ways he could never have imagined, as the machinations of the Void Collective began to accelerate, drawing him deeper into a web of danger and intrigue that spanned the stars themselves. The brewing storm. In the weeks that followed his startling revelation, Ethan found himself living a double life. To the rest of Celestial Nexus, he was still just the orphaned human boy, going about his daily routines of study and exploration. But beneath that unassuming exterior, Ethan's mind raced with newfound purpose, his senses attuned to the subtle undercurrents of the station's bustling life. Every conversation overheard, every unusual shipment noted, Every whispered rumor became potential intelligence for Queen Zara. Ethan used his unremarkable status to his advantage, slipping through crowded corridors and busy docking bays, observing without being observed. It was during one such covert observation in the station's main hangar that Ethan first noticed something truly alarming. A sleek, dark ship unlike any he'd seen before was being unloaded under heavy guard. The beings overseeing the operation wore hooded cloaks that seemed to absorb light, their faces hidden in impenetrable shadow. Ethan's heart raced as he recalled Zara's words about the Void Collective. Could these be their agents? As he watched, one of the crates being unloaded slipped, its contents spilling onto the hangar floor. Ethan caught a glimpse of strange, pulsating crystals that seemed to draw in the very light around them before the cloaked figures hurriedly concealed them from view. That night, Ethan made his way to Zara's hidden alcove, his mind buzzing with what he'd seen. As he relayed his observations, the exiled queen's expression grew increasingly grave. Void crystals, Zara murmured, her starlight eyes clouded with worry. Crystallized dark energy, capable of powering the most devastating weapons in the galaxy. If the collective is bringing them here in such quantities. They're planning something big, Ethan finished, feeling a chill run down his spine. Zara nodded. We must act quickly, Ethan. The time for mere observation has passed. We need allies, those who can help us uncover the full scope of the collective's plans and stop them before it's too late. But who can we trust? Ethan asked, remembering Zara's earlier warning. A small, determined smile played across Zara's lips. There are always those who stand against the darkness, even if they don't yet know it. Your task now is to find them, to bring them to our cause. Over the next few days, Ethan embarked on his most daring mission yet. Armed with carefully coded messages from Zara, he sought out potential allies among the station's diverse population. His first recruit was Clix, a Mechan engineer whose cybernetic enhancements allowed her to interface directly with the station's systems. Ethan had often seen her working in the lower levels, her multiple robotic arms moving in blur as she maintained crucial life support systems. A queen in exile, eh? Clix had said, her optic sensors whirring as they focused on Ethan. Sounds like a malfunction in the cosmic code. Count me in, Flesh Boy. This station's the only home I've got, and I ain't letting some shadow lovers wreck it. Next came Brax, a Lumini trader whose bioluminescent skin changed colors with his moods. Ethan had befriended him months ago, drawn to the alien's boisterous laugh and seemingly endless supply of outrageous stories from across the galaxy. Politics ain't my game, kid, Grax had initially protested, but when Ethan described the void crystals he'd seen, the Lumini skin had paled to a sickly green. Those things are bad news. If they're here, Nova blast it all. I'm with you. Perhaps Ethan's greatest coup was recruiting Commander Lyra Voss, a stern but fair human woman who oversaw station security. He'd always been a bit intimidated by her, but desperation drove him to seek her out. To his surprise, Voss had listened to his story with rapt attention, her weathered face betraying no emotion until he finished. I suspected something was off for months, she'd said finally. Ships with irregular manifests, transmissions that don't quite add up. If what you're saying is true, this goes beyond mere smuggling or corporate espionage. With each new ally, Ethan felt a growing sense of hope. They were no longer alone in their fight against the Void Collective. But even as their ranks grew, so too did the sense of impending danger. Strange incidents began to plague the station, power fluctuations, communication glitches, and an increasing number of accidents befalling those who asked too many questions. It all came to a head one cycle when Ethan was making his way to meet Zara. As he rounded a corner, he found himself face to face with two of the cloaked figures he'd seen in the hangar. For a moment, time seemed to stand still as they regarded each other. Then, moving with inhuman speed, one of the figures reached for Ethan. He ducked and rolled, years of navigating the station's cramped corridors serving him well as he evaded their grasp. Heart pounding, Ethan fled through a maze of maintenance tunnels, the sound of pursuit never far behind. When he finally reached Zora's alcove, gasping for breath, he found the exiled queen already alert, her disguise discarded. "They know," Ethan panted. "Somehow, they discovered us." Zora's face was grim but determined. "Then we have no more time for secrecy. We must act now, before all is lost." As if in response to her words, a deep, resonant boom shook the station. Alarms began to blare, and the emergency lighting cast everything in a harsh red glow. Ethan and Zora shared a look of understanding. The Void Collective had made its move. Whatever their plan was, it was now in motion. "Come," Zora said, her voice carrying the unmistakable tone of royal command. "It's time to gather our allies. The fate of Celestial Nexus, and perhaps the galaxy itself, hangs in the balance." As they raced through the chaotic corridors, dodging panicked crowds and falling debris, Ethan felt a mix of terror and exhilaration. The storm they'd sensed brewing had finally broken. Now it was up to their unlikely band of rebels to weather it, and somehow find a way to turn the tide. The true test of Ethan's courage and of the bonds he'd forged was about to begin, and as the station shuddered around them, he silently vowed that he would not let Zora or his new home fall to the encroaching darkness. Confrontation and chaos. The Celestial Nexus, once a beacon of interstellar cooperation, had descended into pandemonium. Sirens wailed, emergency force field generators sputtered to life, and the station's AI blared warnings in a dozen different languages. Through it all, Ethan and Zora raced to rendezvous with their allies, narrowly avoiding falling debris and panicked crowds. They found Clix first, her cybernetic limbs a blur as she worked to stabilize a failing power conduit. "About time you showed up, Flesh Boy," she called out, her optical sensors whirring. "We've got a major malfunction on our hands." "It's no malfunction," Zara replied grimly. "The Void Collective has made its move." As if to punctuate her words, another explosion rocked the station. This time, Ethan recognized the sound. It had come from the direction of the main hangar. "They're going for the Void Crystals," he realized aloud. "We have to stop them." Commander Voss's voice crackled over Clix's built-in communicator. "Negative. We've got bigger problems. Something's interfering with the station's orbit. If we don't stabilize it soon, we'll be pulled into the nearby gas giant." Ethan felt his stomach lurch. The stakes had just gotten a lot higher. It wasn't just the station at risk now, but the lives of everyone on board. "We need to split up," Zara decided quickly. "Ethan, take Clix and head for the main reactor. If we can boost power to the stabilizers, it might buy us some time. I'll find Grax and we'll try to secure the hangar." "What about me?" Commander Voss's voice came through again. "Keep your security teams focused on evacuation," Zora ordered. "If we fail, the civilians will be our last hope." As they parted ways, Ethan couldn't help but feel a twinge of fear. He was about to face unknown dangers, with the fate of thousands resting on his shoulders. But one look at Zora's determined face steeled his resolve. He wouldn't let her down. Ethan and Clix made their way through increasingly treacherous corridors. The artificial gravity was fluctuating wildly, making every step a challenge. Twice they had to backtrack to avoid sections open to the vacuum of space, sealed off only by emergency force fields that flickered ominously. When they finally reached the reactor room, they found chaos. The massive toroidal structure that powered the entire station was pulsing erratically, arcs of energy lashing out at the frantic technicians trying to contain it. "It's like nothing I've ever seen," Clix muttered, her sensors scanning rapidly. "The reactor's being flooded with some kind of exotic particles. It's destabilizing the containment field." Ethan's mind raced, recalling lessons from his studies. Could it be related to the void crystals? Maybe they're using them to generate those particles. Clix's head swiveled towards him, her optical sensors brightening. "You might be onto something, Flesh Boy. If we can isolate the particle stream, Maybe we can redirect it, use it to boost the stabilizers instead of overloading them. It was a dangerous plan, requiring split-second timing and precise calculations, but it was the only chance they had. As Clix interfaced directly with the reactor controls, Ethan worked to clear the room, guiding the panicked technicians to safety. Meanwhile, across the station, Zara and Grax faced their own battles. They had managed to fight their way to the hangar, only to find it swarming with Void Collective agents. The dark-robed figures moved with unnatural speed and strength, their weapons firing bolts of condensed darkness that ate through metal and flesh alike. "I don't suppose you've got any of that fancy Aetherian tech hidden away?" Grax asked, his skin flickering between anxious yellow and determined red. Zara's eyes narrowed, focusing on a familiar figure orchestrating the chaos. "Something better," she said softly. "I have the truth." With a regal grace that belied their dire circumstances, Zara stepped forward, her disguise falling away completely. She stood revealed in all her glory as the true queen of the Aetherian Empire. "Nyx," she called out, her voice carrying over the din of battle. "Brother, what madness is this?" The figure turned, his hood falling back to reveal features startlingly similar to Zara's own. But where her eyes shone with starlight, his were black voids, seeming to draw in all illumination around them. "Ah, sister," Nyx sneered. "Come to witness the culmination of my grand design. With the power of the void crystals, I will reshape reality itself." "You're destroying everything." Zara shot back. "Our people, this station, the very fabric of space-time, is your ambition worth such a cost?" For a moment, doubt seemed to flicker across Nyx's face, but then his features hardened once more. "Sacrifices must be made for progress. The old order, your order, is weak. The Void Collective will forge a stronger universe from the ashes of the old." As brother and sister faced off, the battle raged around them. Grax found himself fighting back-to-back with station security forces that had belatedly arrived, his traitor's cunning put to deadly use as he outmaneuvered the Void agents. Back in the reactor room, Ethan and Clix were running out of time. The station's orbit was decaying rapidly, the pull of the gas giant growing stronger with each passing moment. "It's now or never, kid," Clix called out, her limbs a blur as she worked the controls. "Hit that switch when I give the word, and pray to whatever deities you believe in that this works." Ethan positioned himself by the manual override, his hand hovering over the switch. He thought of Zara, of all the people on the station, of the home he'd found among the stars. Whatever happened next, he was a part of something greater than himself. As alarms blared and the station groaned around them, Clix's voice rang out, "Now." Ethan slammed down the switch, and for a heart-stopping moment, everything went silent. Then, with a roar that seemed to shake the very foundations of reality, the reactor flared to life. Energy surged through the station, and Ethan felt the sickening lurch as the stabilizers engaged, fighting against the gas giant's inexorable pull. Across the celestial nexus, battles hung in the balance. In the hangar, Zara and Nyx's confrontation had escalated into a duel of cosmic proportions, sibling against sibling, light against darkness. The fate of not just the station, but perhaps the entire galaxy, rested on the outcome of these desperate struggles. As the chaos reached its peak, Ethan clung to hope. They had come too far, fought too hard, to fail now. Whatever the cost, whatever sacrifices lay ahead, he knew that he and his unlikely band of allies would face them together. The storm of confrontation raged on, and the future hung by a thread. But in the heart of that maelstrom, a young human boy stood tall, ready to help write the next chapter in the story of the stars. Turning the tide, the celestial nexus teetered on the brink of destruction. In the reactor room, Ethan and Clix had managed to stabilize the station's orbit, but alarms still blared as systems throughout the massive structure threatened to fail. Meanwhile, in the hangar bay, Queen Zara and her brother Nyx were locked in a cosmic duel that threatened to tear reality itself apart. Ethan's mind raced. They had bought time, but they needed a solution, and fast. As he watched Clix's cybernetic limbs blur across the reactor controls, an idea began to form. "Clix," he called out, "the void crystals, they're like batteries, right? Storing dark energy." The Mechtan's optical sensors whirred as she processed his words. In a manner of speaking, yes. Why? What if we could reverse the polarity? Turn them from void crystals into light crystals? Clix's metallic face was incapable of showing expression, but Ethan sensed her surprise. Theoretically possible, but the energy required would be enormous. We'd need to channel the output of the entire reactor, and even then. "We've got to try," Ethan insisted. He tapped his communicator. "Commander Voss, are you there?" The human security chief's voice crackled through, strained but steady. "Go ahead, Ethan." Quickly, Ethan outlined his plan. They would need to create a direct conduit from the reactor to the hangar bay, channeling the station's entire energy output into the void crystals. If it worked, it could neutralize the Void Collective's power source and potentially end the threat in one stroke. "It's risky," Voss warned. "If it fails, we'll lose our last line of defense against the gas giant's pull." "And if we do nothing, we're doomed anyway," Ethan countered. "Sometimes you have to take a leap of faith." There was a moment of silence, then Voss's voice came back, tinged with a hint of pride. "All right, kid. Let's do this. I'll coordinate with my teams to clear a path and set up the conduit." As Voss signed off, Ethan turned to Clix. "Can you handle things here?" The Mechtan made a sound that might have been a snort. "Please, I was maintaining quantum singularities while you were still in diapers. Flesh boy, go, your queen needs you." With a grateful nod, Ethan set off towards the hangar bay. The corridors were a maze of debris and emergency force fields, but he navigated them with the sure-footed confidence of one who had spent his life exploring every nook and cranny of the station. When he finally reached the hangar, the scene that greeted him was like something out of a fever dream. Queen Zara and Nyx hovered above the floor, locked in combat, tendrils of light and darkness swirling around them. The void crystals pulsed with malevolent energy, their dark radiance casting everything in sharp relief. Grax was there too, his luminescent skin flashing a determined red as he held off Void Collective agents with a makeshift weapon cobbled together from spare parts. The Lumini trader's eyes widened as he spotted Ethan. "Kid, please tell me you've got a plan, because this party's getting a little too lively for my taste." Ethan quickly filled Grax in on the plan. The trader's skin cycled through a rainbow of colors before settling on a resolute blue. "Crazy. I like it. What do you need me to do?" "Keep the void agents off me while I set up the conduit," Ethan replied, "and maybe create a distraction when the time comes." Grax's face split in a wide grin. "Distraction is my middle name, kid. Well, actually it's Slawbacks, but that's a story for another time." As Grax moved off, whooping and drawing fire from the void agents, Ethan set to work. Using skills honed from years of tinkering with the station's systems, he began to assemble the energy conduit, all the while keeping one eye on the cosmic battle raging above. Zara and Nyx were evenly matched, light and darkness clashing in a dizzying display of power. But Ethan could see that Zara was tiring, the years of exile taking their toll. "Your reign is over, sister," Nyx taunted, hurling a bolt of condensed void energy that Zara barely deflected. "The old ways are dead. Embrace the power of the void." "Never," Zara shot back, her voice strained but unwavering. "Our people are guardians of life, Nyx, not harbingers of oblivion." As their battle raged on, Ethan worked feverishly to complete the conduit. Finally, with trembling hands, he made the last connection. "Now Clix," he shouted into his communicator. "Full power." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a roar that seemed to shake the very foundations of reality, a torrent of pure energy burst from the conduit. It slammed into the void crystals with the force of a supernova, enveloping them in blinding light. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The dark radiance of the crystals began to flicker and fade, replaced by a warm, golden glow. Nyx screamed in rage and disbelief as he felt his power ebbing away. "Now, Grax," Ethan yelled. The Lumini trader's skin erupted in a dazzling display of light, momentarily blinding everyone in the hangar. In that instant of confusion, Zara struck. With a cry that held centuries of pain and determination, she unleashed a final burst of Etherian energy, engulfing her brother in a cocoon of starlight. When the light faded, Nyx lay unconscious on the hangar floor, the darkness drained from his form. The remaining Void Collective agents, seeing their leader fallen and their power source neutralized, quickly surrendered. As the dust settled, Ethan found himself at the center of a group hug, with Grax's luminescent arms and Plix's metallic limbs wrapped around him. Commander Voss stirred up, a rare smile on her face. "Not bad, kid. Not bad at all." But it was Queen Zara's approach that truly took Ethan's breath away. Gone was any trace of the bedraggled beggar he had first encountered. She stood tall and regal, her form seeming to shimmer with inner light. "Ethan," she said softly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You saved not just this station, but countless lives across the galaxy. Your courage, your compassion, your ingenuity, they are a testament to the best of humanity." Ethan felt his cheeks flush with pride and embarrassment. "I just did what anyone would do," he mumbled. Zora's laugh was like the chiming of crystal bells. "No, my young friend, you did what only you could do. And in doing so, you have changed the course of history." As the group stood there, battered but victorious, alarms throughout the station began to quiet. The celestial nexus, scared but unbroken, continued its stately orbit. And Ethan, the orphaned human boy who had found his place among the stars, knew that this was only the beginning of a grand adventure. The tide had turned, the immediate danger had passed, but the true work of rebuilding and reconciliation was just beginning. Yet as Ethan looked at the diverse group of allies around him, human, Etherian, Mechan, and Lumini, he felt a surge of hope. Together, they had faced the darkness and emerged stronger. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them united, a shining example of what could be achieved when beings from across the cosmos came together in pursuit of a common goal. The stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter as the celestial nexus sailed on, carrying with it the promise of a new dawn for the galaxy. A new dawn. In the days following the battle against the Void Collective, the celestial nexus hummed with a new energy. Repair crews worked tirelessly to mend the physical damage, but it was the change in the station's spirit that was truly remarkable. Species that had long kept to their own enclaves now mingled freely, united by their shared experience and the story of how an unlikely group of heroes had saved them all. At the center of it all was Ethan, the human boy who had gone from overlooked orphan to celebrated hero overnight. As he walked through the station's promenades, aliens of all kinds stopped to greet him, some offering thanks, others simply wanting to shake the hand of the youth who had shown such extraordinary courage. But for Ethan, the greatest change was internal. He stood taller now, more confident in his place among the stars. The station that had always been his home now felt truly his, a place where he belonged not despite his humanity, but because of it. Queen Zara, fully restored to her regal status, had taken temporary command of the station as repairs and investigations continued. She had wasted no time in beginning to reshape the political landscape of the galaxy. The Void Collective's actions have shown us the danger of isolation and mistrust between species, she announced in a station-wide broadcast. It is time for a new era of cooperation and understanding. The Etherian Empire will lead the way, but we cannot do it alone. We need the wisdom, the strength, and the unique perspectives of all sentient beings. As she spoke these words, her eyes found Ethan in the crowd, and she smiled warmly. It was a smile that spoke volumes, of gratitude, of respect, and of a shared vision for the future. In the following weeks, delegations from across the galaxy arrived at the Celestial Nexus. They came to see for themselves a station that had withstood the Void Collective's assault, to pay respects to those who had fallen, and to begin the process of forging new alliances. Ethan found himself at the heart of these diplomatic efforts, often called upon to share his experiences and insights. His unique perspective as a human who had grown up among aliens made him an ideal bridge between cultures. "It's not about erasing our differences," he explained to a group of skeptical delegates. "It's about recognizing that those differences are our strength. Every species brings something unique to the table. Together, we're stronger than we could ever be apart." His words, simple yet profound, resonated with many. Slowly but surely, old prejudices began to crumble, replaced by curiosity and a willingness to learn. Even Nyx, stripped of his void powers and facing justice for his actions, showed signs of change. Under Zara's compassionate guidance, he began to confront the fears and insecurities that had driven him to the Void Collective. His road to redemption would be long, but it had begun. As for Ethan's unlikely band of allies, they too found their lives transformed. Clix was appointed chief engineer of the Celestial Nexus, her unparalleled skills finally recognized and celebrated. Grax, to everyone's surprise including his own, discovered a talent for diplomacy, his easygoing nature and quick wit, making him an excellent mediator between species. Commander Voss, her faith in humanity restored by Ethan's actions, became a vocal advocate for increased human presence in galactic affairs. "We've been holding ourselves back," she often said. "It's time for humanity to take its place among the stars." But perhaps the most significant change came in the form of a new initiative, spearheaded by Queen Zara and enthusiastically supported by Ethan. The Celestial Academy would be a place where young beings from across the galaxy could come to learn, not just about technology and science, but about each other's cultures and ways of life. "Understanding is the key to peace," Zara declared at the Academy's opening ceremony. "And who better to lead us into this new age of understanding than the young? They are our future, and in their hands, I believe that future is bright." As Ethan stood beside her, looking out at the sea of faces, human, Aetherian, Mechan, Lumini, and a dozen other species he was only just beginning to know, he felt a sense of awe and possibility. This was what he had fought for, what they had all fought for. A galaxy united not in uniformity, but in celebration of its vast diversity. The path ahead would not be easy. Old hatreds and fears would not disappear overnight. There would be setbacks, disagreements, and new challenges to face. But as Ethan met the eyes of his friends, Clix's whirring optical sensors, Grax's color-shifting skin, Voss's steady gaze, and Zara's starlight eyes, he knew that whatever came, they would face it together. As the ceremony concluded and the assembled beings began to mingle, sharing stories and forging new connections, Ethan felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned to find a young Aetherian looking at him with wide, curious eyes. "Is it true?" the child asked. "Did you really help save the station, even though you're different?" Ethan smiled, crouching down to meet the child's gaze. "I did help," he said, "but not because I'm different, because in all the ways that really matter, I'm the same as you. We all are. We all want to live, to learn, to belong. And when we remember that, there's nothing we can't accomplish." As the young Aetherian's face lit up with understanding, Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. This was his legacy, he realized. Not just the battles won or the lives saved, but the seeds of understanding planted in the hearts of the young. The Celestial Nexus continued its stately orbit, a shining beacon of hope in the vast expanse of space, and aboard it, Ethan Reeves, once a lonely orphan, now stood tall, a bridge between worlds, a symbol of what humanity could achieve, and a living testament to the power of compassion, courage, and the unbreakable bonds of friendship that could span the stars themselves. As a new day dawned on the station, Ethan looked out at the glittering starfield beyond the viewports. The universe stretched out before him, vast and full of wonders yet to be discovered, and he was ready, more ready than he had ever been, to explore it all. The adventure, he knew, was only just beginning.